who sneaked the strongest anti-abortion legislation in a generation into the health reform bill is now walking around Washington like he owns the place, threatening his own congressional leadership with his newfound influence. After Democratic Congressman Maddow-Stupak of Michigan introduced his self-titled, virulently anti-abortion amendment to the House health reform bill, pro-choice Democrats pushed back almost instantly. The Stupak amendment would not be part of the final health reform bill presented to the president, or so they said. But Congressman Stupak now says he's ready for a fight with his own party. He told LifeNews.com, quote, "If they, Democratic leaders, are going to summarily dismiss us by taking the pen to that language, there will be hell to pay. I don't say it as a threat, but if they double-cross us, there will be 40 people who won't vote with them the next time they need us, and that could be the final version of this bill." Spoken like a congressman who controls the 40 most important votes there are. Problem? Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina, who is, after all, the Democratic whip, the guy who counts the votes, counts quite differently in this case.
We keep using the number 40 and 41. It was not 40 votes that we were trying to get with this amendment. There was only about 10 or 11 votes.
40 votes would give Congressman Bart Stupak some swagger authority, maybe some authority to promise hell to pay. But 10 or 11 votes doesn't even, I mean, it doesn't give you hell to pay. It might give you heck to pay. Perhaps gosh to pay might be more appropriate. The debate about the political gamesmanship on abortion has thus far largely missed one critical point. As it stands, the law says that federal funds cannot be used to pay for abortions. The president has said he wants to keep abortion rights the status quo. He wants to keep it that way. He said this is a health care bill, not an abortion bill. Congressman Stupak and his supporters say that the Stupak amendment would simply maintain the status quo. It should be noted that that's baloney. The Stupak amendment doesn't just say you can't use your federal insurance subsidy to pay for an abortion. It says if you're getting a federal subsidy of any kind, you're not allowed to buy an insurance plan that covers abortion, even with your own money. That's the first bit of dishonesty going on here. Here's another. There was a different abortion amendment to health reform that would have kept federal money and private money ostentatiously separate, allowing only money from the private pool of money to be used for abortions. It's a relatively reasonable compromise on the subject to reassure people that as it stands now, and as it would stay in the future, public money wouldn't be used to fund abortions. Congressman Stupak's office called that other amendment a phony compromise, and his much more draconian amendment was passed instead after the Conference of Catholic Bishops lobbied for it, calling the separate funding pools idea, quote, a money laundering system. A money laundering system? This is a major point of dishonesty, I believe, in the Stupak Amendment debate. If separating public and private sources of funding is money laundering, according to the Conference of Catholic Bishops, the bishops may want to explain how it is that the Catholic Church is able to keep all the federal, state, and local money it receives for its charitable work separate from the private money it receives to, say, evangelize or campaign against abortion rights and gay marriage. Is that money laundering too? Joining us now is Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell. Governor Rendell, thanks very much for coming on the show tonight. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Rachel.
Do you think that this debate over the Stupak Amendment, the issue of abortion, has become big and divisive enough among Democrats that it does pose a real threat to health reform passing?
I think it poses a threat unless the Democrats in Congress take a deep breath and remember what we're here for. We're here to enact health reform that's desperately needed. There's a woman in Erie, Pennsylvania, who's got breast cancer and can't get health care because it's a pre-existing condition. And that's almost like a death sentence for her. And that's what we're fighting for. And we've got to take a deep breath and not fight collateral battles. Health reform is so important for this country that it's got to supersede all of this stuff. And by the way, Rachel, your analysis is absolutely right. Take a small business that's receiving a tax credit, a federal tax credit, to provide health care for its employees. They would be barred under the Stupak Amendment from allowing their employees to use the health care that they offer them for abortion. They would be absolutely disallowed from doing that. And it's not even clear that if you compartmentalized, you could do it in any event. So I think the amendment, when people take a look at it, They'll either do the compromise amendment or do nothing, heeding the president who says, look, this is about health care. It's not about abortion. The law is clear that federal money can't be used for abortions right now. Let's leave it right there.
That compromise language, which would be about having separate pools of money, public money and private money, so that the public money couldn't be spent on abortions. Again, the Catholic Church's argument against that was that it was just an accounting gimmick, that there isn't really a way to keep funds separate. I pointed out the hypocrisy in that, given that the Church is very happy to take public money to do things that other parts of its mission wouldn't allow them to take public money for. But is there any reason to believe, just in terms of policy and what you've seen, that a process of separating public and private money would be unwieldy, that it wouldn't work in some way?
It would be difficult. Let's take that small business again. Literally, what the small business would have to do is say the money that we're putting in is used for offering abortion services. The money that the federal government's given us with the tax credit is not. It would be very difficult to do, but not impossible, not impossible. And your analogy is a very, very good one. Under the law, the government, whether it's state, local, or federal, cannot give the Catholic Church or any religious institution money directly. But virtually every religious institution, including the Catholic Church, now has 501c3s, which have as their mission providing childcare or after-school tutoring or whatever. And yes, we can, and we often do, every level of government, contribute money to those sort of adjunct, separate pools of dollars that are used for a public purpose, not for promoting religion. So there is that separation, as you point out.
Anytime a member of Congress starts using phrases in public like double cross and hell to pay about his own party, it's clear that there's some sort of rift going on in the party. But you've been in this business a long time. You've seen a lot of these inter-party fights. How serious do you think this is? And do you think it gets healed before the final vote?
Well, I think it's serious, but I do think it gets healed before the final vote, because I think if there's a final bill that comes out of the conference committee and goes back to the House, you are going to have to be incredibly dumb and incredibly unfeeling to jeopardize national health reform on this issue. And this issue, when again, the federal proviso is very clear. Federal dollars cannot be used for abortion. Let's leave it there and let's remember our mission. Our mission is desperately needed. There are people out there who may not survive unless we do health care reform. There are people out there who go to emergency rooms 6 months too late to really solve their problem. Sure, they get care, but it's too late to really save them. That's one of the basic things we're fighting for, and people have to keep their eye on the ball and understand what the real issue is here. And I believe in the end, very few congressmen are going to cast a no vote on a bill that they're in favor of because it doesn't include the Stupak amendment.
Governor Ed Rendell of Pennsylvania, thanks very much for joining us tonight, sir. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.